Lesson and practice ideas for tutors and students. Della Maré Music Continuum, a 21st century pedagogy. Starting small, a continuum lesson on the semitone, inspired by Against the Grain, Augmented Unison, by iServalan. The continuum approach begins where Western music itself begins its measured steps, with the smallest interval, the semitone. By restricting ourselves to this single chromatic step, we train the ear, the voice, and the imagination with clarity and intensity. Small steps grow. Subsequent lessons widen the interval, so that students gradually internalize the full palette of distances, while remaining grounded in attentive listening rather than formulaic drilling. This lesson takes as its reference point the newly released track Against the Grain, Augmented Unison, by iServalan, Sarnia della Maré, available at htw.youtube.com/watch/VIKAAQGO. The full lyrics appear in the YouTube description. The piece is built exclusively on the semitone C sharp, realized as a loose three-voice round, the composer's own voice, a higher voice, and a lower male voice, with occasional drifts to the octave below. The text explores inherited shame, internal rebellion, and the self-reinforcing cycle of fighting the grain. The musical restriction mirrors the emotional one. The interval never resolves, it simply keeps rubbing. Clarifying the interval, an augmented unison, also called augmented prime or chromatic semitone, is the interval between two notes that share the same letter name but differ by one chromatic alteration. Classic example, C to C sharp. Its enharmonic equivalent is the minor second, diatonic semitone, written with different letter names, C to Deft. They sound identical in equal temperament, yet their theoretical identities differ. A diminished unison is not standard or useful terminology. Because a perfect unison is already zero semitones, diminishing it produces a negative or theoretically awkward distance that most theorists reject. If you begin on C Cef and move to C natural, you are simply singing a descending augmented unison, or the same interval in reverse. In short, the pair C sec that iServalan chose is a clear, classic augmented unison. Students may freely choose either spelling, augmented unison or minor second, according to the key or color they prefer, provided they remain faithful to the single semitone restriction. Any other adjacent pair works equally well. D sharp, E F, F G, A B flat, B C, and so on. The project is defined by the restriction, not by a fixed pitch center. Learning objectives. Here, sing and play the semitone with accuracy and expressive intent. Experience how extreme restriction generates intensity, atmosphere, and form. Compose a short multi-voice piece that uses only one chosen semitone pair plus its octaves. Begin the long continuum progression from the smallest step outward toward full interval recognition. Materials reference track, Against the Grain, Augmented Unison by iServalan. Any instrument or voice, piano, guitar, strings, pure voice, or digital tools, all fine. Simple recording device or DAW if students wish to layer voices. Optional, staff paper or free notation software. Lyric sheets of the reference track. Lesson sequence, adaptable for individual, small group, or classroom use, 45 to 90 minutes. 1. Listening and orientation, 10 to 15 min. Play the reference track once without commentary. Ask students simply to notice, how many distinct pitch classes do they hear? Where does the tension live? How do the overlapping voices behave? Second listening, invite them to hum or softly sing along with whichever voice feels most comfortable. Discuss briefly the emotional effect of an unresolved semitone sustained over time. 2. Isolated practice, 10 min. Choose the reference pair C sharp or any other. Sing or play the two notes slowly, ascending and descending. Experiment with different registers and dynamics. Try the octave displacement. iServalan uses drop one voice an octave while the others stay close. Notice how the same interval changes character in different ranges and with different numbers of voices. 3. Restricted composition project. Faithful to the formula, 20 to 40 min. The rule is strict and liberating. Only one chosen semitone pair and its octaves may be used. Aim for 2 or 3 overlapping voices, live or recorded, in a loose round or free canonic texture. Duration, 1 to 3 minutes, is ideal. Students may but need not set text. Possible springboard ideas that stay faithful to the restricted interval while opening personal or collective expression. A short meditation on a single repeated word or phrase that itself contains friction. Still, almost, yet. again. An abstract sound poem built from onomatopoeia of dripping, ticking, or breathing. A response to the theme of against the grain, family patterns, internal conflict, quiet resistance. Purely instrumental, one voice holds a drone on the lower note, while the others circle the upper note in free rhythm, then reverse roles. Micro-variations lengthen or shorten the drip motif, introduce silence as a structural element, or let one voice drift slightly out of phase. Encourage students to record even a rough version. The continuum priority is process and attentive listening, not polished product. 4. Sharing and reflection. 10 to 15 min. Listen to one another's pieces. Questions for discussion. What did the restriction make possible that freer writing might have diluted? How did the three-voice texture change the character of the interval? Where did the ear start to want a wider step, and what happened when that desire was refused? Progression within the continuum. This lesson is the first cell. Subsequent sessions expand the allowed interval while retaining the same disciplined spirit. Whole tone, major second, minor third, major third, perfect fourth, tritone, and so on, until students can move fluidly across the full set of intervals with the same quality of attention they first gave the semitone. Each new interval is introduced in the same way: isolated practice, restricted multi-voice composition, reflection. Over time, the ear learns not by rote memorization of names, but by embodied comparison. This distance feels wider than the last one we lived inside. Pedagogical notes for teachers. The Continuum Approach treats restriction as a generative condition rather than a limitation. By beginning with the smallest Western step, we remove the pressure to cover large amounts of material and instead cultivate depth, listening, and creative agency. Neurodiverse and returning learners often find the clear boundary calming. Advanced students discover how much expressive power can be extracted from almost nothing. Keep the atmosphere pressure-free. There is no single correct realization of the project. The only non-negotiable is fidelity to the chosen semitone. Everything else, tempo, texture, text, duration, technology, is open. Closing invitation, iServalan's Against the Grain demonstrates that a single augmented unison, treated with patience and multi-voice layering, can carry complex emotional architecture. Students who begin here are not merely learning an interval, they are practicing the continuum habit of starting small, staying present, and letting musical understanding grow organically outward. Teachers are warmly invited to adapt, extend, or simplify this outline. Share student responses or further developments if you wish. The continuum is a living conversation. Lesson Framework by Continuum Music Studio, inspired by the compositional practice of iServalan, Sarnia della Maré FRSA. More from the Della Maré Music Continuum at iServalan.com.